You little fuck. Excuse me, gentlemen.
The real cover-up wasn't on screen. It was in the writer's room.
What do you gotta say now?
A waiter is brained with a brick, shot in a resort town parking lot, and the investigation politely keels over from lack of interest. Of course it does. In a series that treats public violence like weather, frequent, inconvenient, and rarely chased by consequences, this killing has long sat on the fault line between grim plausibility and narrative convenience. The debate splits neatly.
Anything else, gentlemen? We're good.
Those who think the scene reads as a messy street crime no one could solve, and those who insist it's the sloppiest cover-up the show ever asked viewers to swallow. The case for mugging gone sideways. The scene plays like a routine robbery gone wrong.
You think this job is easy? I have kids.
Then go back inside before you get hurt.
The victim was known, even by co-workers, to be mouthing off at the worst possible moments. The kind of temper that can turn a shakedown into a homicide. That version is easy for cops to digest.
Chrissy, he's fucked up.
Random stick-up, combative victim, no witnesses, no leads. File it under everyday ugliness.
1184. Oh, babe.
The diners look like wise guys, yes, but rich ones. People who casually send an expensive bottle to a nearby table of women don't need to jack a waiter's roll.
Was there a problem with the service?
On the surface, there's no obvious motive to connect the table of big spenders with a petty, lethal dust-up outside.
I'm not too worried about the cops. Nobody knows us down there.
Paulie's own postscript, "I'm not too worried about the cops, nobody knows us down there," isn't subtle, but it's credible. Out-of-town perpetrators plus a tourist city that depends on unruffled headlines equals a powerful institutional reflex to move on quickly. Blood, after all, is bad for business. Add in the well-worn cynicism about bigoted shortcuts and small-town buffoonery, the presumption that faceless black suspects would be blamed, the Barney Fife jokes about nipping things in buds, the idea that the investigation died on the vine because no one with a badge wanted the paperwork. Ugly, but not unfamiliar. And yes, the 48-hour truism. Once a murder drifts past the first 2 days without witnesses or strong forensics, clearance rates fall off a cliff. This one had neither. The case for they'd have been questioned in an afternoon. The counter-argument is brutal in its simplicity. They dined there. People saw them. In a high-end room with a huge tab, conspicuous generosity, and a minor sideshow of sending drinks to another table, there would be no shortage of staff and patrons to describe faces, voices, and mannerisms. Nobody knows us down there collapses when half the dining room remembers the show. Surveillance wasn't the Stone Age. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, many restaurants ran 8 or 16 camera systems in dining rooms, entrances, and cash handling areas. Exterior parking lot coverage was spottier, but not rare. Even if the lot is a black hole, indoor cameras, credit card slips for most tables, POS logs, and staff recollections are a starting list, not an ending one. The FBI shadowed high-value targets like Tony and Johnny Sack. Local homicide units know how to pick up the phone. If federal surveillance placed known mob figures in the area that night, the mystery diners cease being mysterious. Forensics aren't a panacea, but they exist. DNA and prints at the table, shell casings outside, timestamps inside. Combine that with the obvious narrative path, waiter follows the high rollers out, altercation ensues, and any competent detective bureau would, at minimum, drag in every member of that party for questioning. And then there's the PR reality. Upscale restaurants do not quietly shrug off the daylight murder of an employee. They hold memorials, they talk to press, they put the entire city on alert. Faces end up on the nightly news. The camera wars. Yes, they existed. No, they weren't magic. One camp insists restaurant interiors were routinely covered, with entrances and exits nearly always visible. Another notes the real-world mess. Grainy, low-light footage, dead cameras no one noticed, owners who never learned how to pull tape, and crucial angles that mysteriously stopped recording 3 weeks earlier. Both are right. The technology was there. The reliability and retrieval were often not. A more underworld-friendly gloss. Crews pick establishments with blind spots, or simply pay for the cameras to malfunction for an evening. Slide a thick envelope across the host stand, and the house suddenly becomes a temple to privacy. Solvable is not the same as prosecutable. Even if detectives identified the diners within days, getting from identification to conviction is another sport entirely.
What's going on? Back here in the States, I think we got a mistrial.
The show repeatedly points out how easily juries can be nudged, witnesses conveniently forget, and cases bleed out before trial.
In other news, in the federal courthouse in Newark, there were few surprises.
Junior's saga is practically a documentary on why a RICO indictment is not a silver bullet. A civilian killed by a someone in the lot? Easier to lean on, easier to lose.
Right. Go piss it away at blackjack, fucking asshole.
The tonal math. Black comedy over blue lights. The series is in love with mordant farce.
One of us could have got hurt. Or even killed, for Christ's sake.
Paulie's post-mortem, someone could have got hurt, lands as one of the show's coldest jokes precisely because someone did. Christopher's talent for stupidly earnest misunderstandings is treated as comic relief right up until it isn't. The scene's humor flickers against real horror. Then the story keeps moving. Real police work is reserved for other arcs. Here, the punchline is the point. Which is why the bigger continuity gripe is elsewhere.
My drink water, Bevel Aqua. You know what happened to Christopher Moltisanti?
If there's a place to complain about investigative amnesia, the Bevilacqua or drinkwater material is the sturdier target. By comparison, the waiter killing is grimly believable if one accepts the show's own rules. Off-screen law enforcement unless plot demands otherwise. The conspiracy detours. A few Baroque theories try to launder plausibility by blaming shadowy associates.
You little fuck. Excuse me, gentlemen.
The waiter supposedly took cash outside because he was mixed up with rough company. He mouthed off about a cut and got silenced by them, not by the diners. There's also the rumor mill about undercover waitstaff from earlier mob gatherings. Colorful, but unsupported, and beside the point.
What do you got to say now?
A bullet renders "he slipped under a brick" fantasies moot. Another tidy fiction imagines the file closing quietly after later deaths remove suspects from circulation. Perhaps. Bureaucracies love a clean desk, if realism were the goal. Staging is the obvious fix. Nick the victim's wallet and watch. Let a camera catch a license plate that can't quite be read. Drop a line 2 episodes later. Got court for that thing last year. To imply consequences without dragging the series into Law and Order. The show occasionally does this, Tony's gun charge. It simply didn't bother here. What actually holds and what doesn't?
A little,
Fucked up, huh?
Plausible if you squint. A combative victim, no independent eyewitnesses, indoor cameras that fail or get managed, a tourist town incentive to smother scandal, out-of-towners with no local fingerprints, investigators content to chalk it up as a botched robbery, even some ugly, racially charged scapegoating to speed the paperwork along. Implausible if you don't. Attentive detectives with access to staff, receipts, and federal surveillance, routine coordination with the FBI, the restaurant's unavoidable public grief machine, the sheer number of people who saw those diners and would remember them. One necessary caveat. Not every well-dressed man in a resort city who looks Italian is a mobster. Stereotype as police work is bad fiction and worse policing. If the case collapses without that crutch, maybe that's a sign the scene really was built on narrative expedience.
That's my money, Paulie.
The killing reads less like a perfect crime than a perfect example of the show's priorities. The writers choose tone over procedure, punchline over paperwork. With a few real-world assumptions, shoddy cameras, apathetic cops, a hostile victim profile, the non-investigation passes. With a few equally real-world assumptions, competent detectives, cooperative feds, a city that actually cares, it doesn't.
The reason I called. Let's bury the hatchet, you and me.
In other words, yes, they probably would have been caught. No, it doesn't matter here. The series isn't adjudicating cases. It's cataloging rot. How quickly a life can become an inconvenience. How easily institutions decide a dead waiter is just another cost of doing business. If you want more sharp breakdowns of scenes like this, where The Sopranos quietly bends realism to serve its darker punchlines, hit subscribe and stick around.